And tomorrow when you get back to work hard like you always have. But we've been warned. We've been warned there are evil people in this world. We've been warned so vividly. And we'll be alert. Your government is alert. The governors and mayors are alert that evil folks still lurk out there. As I said yesterday, people have declared war on America. And they have made a terrible mistake because this is a fabulous country. Our economy will come back. We'll still be the best farmers and ranchers in the world. We're still the most innovative entrepreneurs in the world. On this day of faith, I've never had more faith in America than I have right now.
An upbeat speech there from the president, a pep talk, if you will, as he urges the American people to go back to work tomorrow. At the same time, though, the president assuring the American people their government, from Washington to local mayors, were on alert for additional possible incidents of terrorism. Quite an emotional statement by the president. At one point, he clenched his fist when talking about the campaign against terrorism. At another point, as you heard there, he said our economy will bounce back. He refused to answer a specific question about what he expected on the financial markets tomorrow. Some worried there will be jitters in the markets when they open tomorrow. The president also assured the American people, I'm not going to lose my focus. I'm not going to be distracted. This, again, an effort by the administration to prepare the people for a multi-year, multifaceted campaign against terrorism here. And dramatically, the president confirmed to the cameras that as he was flying from Florida the other day, told of these terrorist attacks against the United States, he authorized, if necessary, U.S. fighter jets to shoot down any additional planes if they were hijacked and believed to be headed towards civilian targets. Darren?
John, I want to bring the discussion back for a moment back to the economy. One of the questions the president took was on recession, and if the country now does face a recession, a number of companies are going to be hurt by Tuesday's attacks. Just yesterday, Continental Airlines announced it's laying off 12,000 workers. It can't be the last company to make such an announcement. Are you hearing any talk in Washington about help to prop up these businesses or perhaps even the stock market if it does tank tomorrow?
There have been communications, we are told, between senior administration officials, most specifically the Treasury Secretary, and many firms on Wall Street and key corporations around the country. There have also been conversations on Capitol Hill about a possible financial help to the airline industry. Congress tried to pass a measure doing that over the past several days. It was held up, but the negotiations on that, we are told, will continue when Congress comes back. So you can certainly expect some help for the airline industry down the road. As a sign, as an attempt to reassure the financial markets, the Treasury Secretary Paul O'Neill will be on Wall Street to ring the bell when the markets open tomorrow morning. They don't talk about the markets here at the White House in the best of times, because anything a president says or a cabinet member says can make the market gyrate up and down. Privately, of course, like many investment analysts on Wall Street, they are concerned about what the mood will be in those initial hours. That's why the president trying to be more optimistic about the long term, saying our economy will bounce back, and the key, he believes, is for the American people to get back to work and show a spirit of optimism even as they mourn and grieve. Darren?
John King at the White House. John, thank you very much. Now I want to bring you the latest on the investigation. We do know that 2 people are under arrest as material witnesses. Also, we know that an FBI raid within the past couple of hours is focusing on another house in Florida. Let's bring in our Justice Department correspondent, Kelly Rena. She is standing by in Washington. Kelly, this house, is this someplace that officials had checked out before?
Well, Darren, as the nationwide hunt for clues intensifies, the FBI has raided a home in Delray Beach, Florida. Now, this is believed to be a residence of one of the hijackers, Ahmed Al-Nami. He hijacked the plane that crashed into Pennsylvania. That is what we know at this point. They haven't been at that address before, but it is an address that has been known to investigators. As you said, Darren, there have been no new arrests today, but the FBI does have 2 people in custody in New York arrested as material witnesses. And there are 2 others who are in INS custody who sources say are cooperating and have extensive knowledge of the terrorist network. There are 25 others who remain in INS custody and who are also being questioned. There's also a massive manhunt underway for more than 100 people that the FBI has identified on its watch list as people who may have information about the attacks. Investigators have distributed that list to airlines, car rental agencies, hotels, Border Patrol, and other authorities. And meanwhile, Attorney General John Ashcroft today says he will meet with congressional leaders to brief them on the latest threat. Justice officials say that there is evidence people involved in Tuesday's attacks remain in the United States. Ashcroft will also push during those meetings for increased authority when it comes to conducting wiretaps and other surveillance. And finally, Darren, law enforcement sources confirmed that at least 2 weeks before the attacks, the FBI began an investigation into 2 of the suspected hijackers. Now, that's after receiving information from the CIA that they had entered the country. The 2 had flown into New York, but the FBI was unable to track them down. Agents were still looking for them on September 11th when the plane that they hijacked crashed into the Pentagon. The 2 had been on an FBI watch list, but they still managed to board that plane, Darren. And that is all we've got right now for you on the investigation.
Right. Well, we will cut you loose, Kelly, so that you can go back and get some more information with us, and we will check back with you later. We do want to let our viewers know that, of course, when we finish this news update, we'll be going back to a special edition of Talk Back Live. And for you viewers who are tuning in for that, these new numbers should be of special interest to you. New numbers from a CNN USA Today Gallup poll reflecting overwhelming national support for military action against terrorism. 88% of Americans saying a military response is called for. 8% disagreeing. Support wanes at the prospect of a long war that President Bush has spoken of, but 2/3 say they would back military action even if it lasted several years. 86% say they also support action lasting many months. Now to the practical matter of getting back to work and getting back to our lives, as the president had talked about. For a lot of people who travel for business, that means getting back to the skies. And a lot of people out there wondering if the skies are safe. Well, it turns out the government is putting together a task force to make you at least feel and believe that the airports across the U.S. are safe to be in and that those planes are safe to board and to fly. Let's bring in our Patty Davis from Washington. She has more on what's being done to make airlines and planes safer across the U.S. Patty.
Well, during that new task force on aviation security announced today by the Department of Transportation in light of the hijackings on Tuesday, and officials are vowing a war on red tape and bureaucracy to make sure that passengers know that it is safe to return to the skies, that they're going to take action as quickly as possible. Now, that comes as representatives of the largest union representing about 50,000 flight attendants says that as early as Monday that it is going to come out and demand new security measures. Many of those have already been called for by the pilots union. Now here they are. We're talking about standardized carry-on rules. They're saying that the airlines allow, in some cases, some allow 3, some allow 1. They want that standardized. More stringent airport screening. Also reinforced cockpit doors. Increased sky marshals usage and more training for flight attendants to deal with hijackings. Now, as far as the number of flights out there today, the latest number coming from the Federal Aviation Administration is about 4,887 flights were in the air as of about 1 o'clock Eastern time. Now, they say that flights are running about 65% of what they would on a normal September Sunday. Now, as for Reagan National Airport, that remains the one very large airport that still is closed, and Transportation Secretary Norman Mineta saying that he's in consultation with other government agencies, including the White House, as to if and when that airport will open. In terms of what aircraft are allowed to take off there today, aircraft are allowed to reposition. That means that some airlines can fly out of there, perhaps taking their aircraft to other airports. And at this point, though, only allowed south takeoffs. Darren?
Patty Davis, that would explain the planes that some folks might have seen flying above Washington, D.C. today from that airport. Patty, thank you. Now to New York, where there is no rest on this Sunday, not for those involved in the recovery efforts at Ground Zero. There was a somber ceremony that was held today to promote new fire officials. That after New York's fire chief and his first deputy were lost in Tuesday's attack. But then, right back to the rescue operation. For more on that, which is still considered, by the way, a rescue operation, let's go to our Bill Hemmer, who is standing by in New York City. Bill.
Darren, hello again. Hope springs eternal here in New York City, but with every passing day, now day 6, that hope indeed does fade slightly, knowing that no survivors have been pulled from the rubble since Wednesday, 5 days ago. They believe, though, if there are people still alive inside the rubble of the World Trade Center, it might be below ground. We have a bit of a graphic description here to show you. It is believed that the rubble and debris may be crushed about 7 stories below the street level. There's a lot of room down there. 2 shopping malls, subways. There's a train that comes in from New Jersey into this part of New York under there as well. And several parking garages as well. It is possible, some people believe, that people may be trapped down there if there is still a possibility that those inside the World Trade Center buildings may still be alive at this point. Want to take you above the ground and above the streets now. We have some new aerial videotape here that gives us a different perspective of the operation here, a huge area we're talking about. And FEMA is now informing us that structural engineers are working their way through 5 separate buildings, many of which can be seen in the videotape here, checking for structural damage at this time. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers also right now trying to formulate a plan that would take out the debris at a much faster pace. We have seen workers move here and work diligently for 6 days, but again, it appears to be just the tip of the iceberg when you talk about the rubble here. Some estimate greater than 500,000 tons eventually will have to remove from this site. A structural engineer also a short time ago on a less than positive note informing police that he was going through the Bank of New York building. That's a structure down here and to the right, about 20 floors in height, saying that he was going from floor to floor and he noticed quite a bit of vandalism inside. Doors have been kicked in, offices broken into. He says the coffee shop on the ground floor has been robbed. That, though, we have been told of earlier this week due to reports of theft and other things in the area. Ultimately, though, the mayor, though, has upped the number of missing, 5,097 at this point. Darren?
Discouraging news on those numbers, Bill. Now, for those who survived, there's a lot of folks who live down near that area. They survived the attack, and yet perhaps their homes didn't. They might have been allowed in to get their pets or some clothes, but otherwise, these folks were basically homeless. Bill, what's being done for them?
Well, we're on Greenwich Street, just about 2.5 blocks from the World Trade Center, and basically this entire area south of here has been closed down ever since Tuesday morning. Yesterday and the day before, we've been informed that some residents with chaperones have been allowed to go back into their apartments. However, there's a lot of other people who have not gained the access just yet. We talked to a couple business owners several hours ago, a couple of architects trying to keep their business up and running, and they have not been allowed yet inside their office just yet. Again, people are trying to get back in. It has been a slow process, but on a positive note, Darren, last night in Lower Manhattan, we saw life come back at a pretty good clip. A number of people back on the streets, and we expect that also to continue tomorrow with the number of shops and businesses opening, and of course the New York Stock Exchange opening up at 9:30 a.m. with that opening bell. New York is struggling, but again, they continue here, and life is slowly but surely returning to some sense of normalcy.
And we heard Mayor Giuliani earlier today encourage people to go back to work and to America. He said, if you really want to help, come visit us in New York and come spend some money.
Yeah, he sure did. A lot of people got a chuckle out of that, but he's right. You know, the economic impact here could be dramatic.
Yeah, absolutely. Bill Hemmer in New York, thank you very much. We will continue to monitor events from here at the news desk. Once again, we do have a crew on the way to the house in Delray Beach, Florida, where investigators have conducted a raid. We'll tell you the latest on that as soon as we have it, plus any other developments as they come to us here at CNN. For now, though, back to Bobby Batista and more of the special edition of Talk Back Live.
All right, Darren, thank you very much, and welcome back to the second hour of our special edition of Talk Back Live. America Speaks Out. A lot of people are seeking answers in their religious faiths as they try to deal with the events of the past week. As the terrorists involved in the attacks have been identified and we learn more about Afghanistan's Taliban, Americans are wondering, among other things, about the nature of Islam. Joining us today is Alhaj Ghazi Kankan, a Muslim cleric and executive director of the Council on American Islamic Relations in New York. Also with us is Rabbi David Wolpe from the Sinai Temple in Los Angeles. He is the author of Making Loss Matter, Creating Meaning in Difficult Times. And Father Robert Drinan, a Jesuit priest and professor of international human rights and constitutional law at Georgetown University. He is the author of The Mobilization of Shame. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
If I may, I'd like to start with Alhaj. This email, I think, is very typical of some of the confusion and perhaps ignorance that we have about the Islamic religion. Scott from Wichita, Kansas says, any religion that encourages its members to kill themselves while killing others and claims that's the road to heaven should be destroyed. Help us with that. The Islamic faith, does it endorse terrorist activity for any reason?
Of course not. That is really an unfortunate association. May I first begin with a short prayer, Bobby, because we are all so uptight and calling for war and so on. I would like to make a short just prayer